Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are learning how to build custom APIs using Next.js 15. We will create a simple API to serve random codes and display them on the front end, as you can see just by clicking a simple button. Every time I'm getting a random code, which is really simple to do it. It's a really simple example for getting an API. So as you can see here in my fast refresh rebuilding of Next.js 15, every time that I tap on get code, the fast rebuilding is getting refreshed. So 6, 7, 8, 10. So it's really nice and simple. By the end of this video, you'll know how to handle several less functions with Next.js 15. So let's get started. So first of all, Next.js makes it super easy to create API routes. Let's start by creating an API endpoint that returns random codes. So we will go to our /app and we will create a folder called API, and then another I will name it codes. You can name it whatever you like. Then we will just create a simple root.jsx file, and then we'll create a function just with RFC. We'll remove that import, and then we will rename this function to get, because we want to get something, and this function we will name get. So just simple variables, as you know, due to last videos. We'll create just a variable and we will put a string, and we will put a random code. So this is my random codes that I have set. They are really random. You can put whatever you like, motivation phrases or whatever you like. So here we will delete this div tag because we wanna return only API. So now here we need to use an JavaScript functions called math.random, which picks a random code. Then we will send a JSON response with the selected code. So first of all, we're gonna return our new response. We will make it to JSON dot string file, which we saw in last videos. Then we will return our quotes, and we need to create another variable. So here I will name it random quote. So for the random quote, I will put a new variable here, which is equal to quotes. So now I'm calling my quotes variable. So now every time that the request is being sent, I wanna get a random code. So I'm gonna use math.floor, then math and random, and then we can multiply this to quote.length. So that's all. And here in our quotes function, so here we'll put a comma to set our headers. So basically headers are equal to content type, and which corresponds to application slash JSON. So that's all. We saw that we have created a variable called quote, which has 3 random quotes. Then we will put math.random to pick a random code, then new response, which sends a JSON response with the selected code. We need to fetch data from the API. We have our API, so let's fetch data from it and display it on the front end. So we can just basically and simply create another folder to make our root. So I will call it, for example, codes, and then my page.jsx. So we'll use RFC to create our function. We'll delete this React import. Then we can name it, for example, quote page. So that's all for now. Then we're gonna use a state. So I'm gonna create a variable, for example quote and set quote, to update the state with the fetch quote. And for example I will call it quote and set quote. So that's all. Then we will equal it to use the state with a parenthesis. So we'll make that an empty string, so we'll make sure that it by default it's nothing. So then we're gonna create our fetch variable. So I'm calling it fetch quote, then async, because it's gonna take a long, in parentheses, then arrow function, then the body of the function. So here I'm gonna create another variable to get the response, and then another variable for our data. So first of all, the response with small r, which is equal to await. So now we used async, so as we should use await as well here. Then we're gonna tell him our API routes. So just like that, /API/routes. So that's all. Then we are gonna create another variable. I will call it data, and which is equal to await response.json. So now I just created a variable called response which gets our API. Then I'm gonna put it in our data variable to get it as a JSON. So then just we're gonna use our setQuote variable, and we're gonna pass the data. So that's all. Then we can return a basic quote page with an h1 tag, for example random quote. Then we can create a button to generate our quotes, for example get quote. Then we're gonna pass our onClick, which is quote, fetch quote. Then we are set some conditions that if there was a quote, so we will put quotes, and if not, if you don't want. So now we fetched the random quote from the API, then we updated this state with the fetched quote, and the quote and the ptag with our quote displays the quote only if one is fetched. So now we can go to our front end, we can go to the quotes route, and then as well we have an error. I will put my use client here because we used user state. And so that's all. Now every time that I click on this button, it will generate a random quote. So make sure to have this code in your function, because if you make a mistake somewhere, you will see an error. So make sure that everything works good. So now we can add some styles as well. I prefer using table and CSS. You can use CSS, everything you want, but before let's make our API more dynamic by adding a query parameter. This allows us to fetch quotes based on categories. So here we will pass a variable called URL, then we'll equal it to a new URL. So the new URL, we check that if the URL, so the request dot URL, then we will create a variable called category, which is equal to URL dot search params, then dot get and category. If there wasn't any category, you can pass a general category. And then we have to add another variable here called category quotes, quotes to quotes, and category. Then if there wasn't any category codes, we will get the general codes category. And then we're gonna add the quotes, gonna add the category quote dot length, and here we're gonna add the category quotes as well. So that's all. So here I add a variable. So here I updated my quotes variable. I added general and motivation. So for example, we have two different categories to get a random quotes. So if I go back my random quotes, if I get quotes, we can see that we are getting motivational quotes and others. So that's all. I have updated my quotes page.js6. I added some table styles and some conditions to get error if something went wrong. That's all. So basically we have the is loading, which is a state variable to track whether the app is fetching data. If I go back to my website, we can see that every time that we have get quote, we'll get a loading state if the data is fetching, and while fetching the bottom displays loading, and once fetching completes it reverts to get quote. And we have add a display button that which is equal to is loading, and we have used some styles, for example background gray 400 with a cursor not allowed, that it will just get the button not allowed to click, and it will display an error message if the fetch fails. And the button visually disabled with a loading message prevents respected clicks, which improve our user experience. So if you want to make it better, we can add a loading spinner that works like this, and which is an optional enhancement to add a spinner. We used a spinner svg tag, a small spinning animation to indicate loading with animate spin, one of table and utility for spinning animations, and it conditionally rendered the displays that spinner only when is loading is true. So the results will be the loading state with button displays a spinner or loading with the text while fetching data, and when button is displayed prevents accidental multiple requests, and we handled error as well. So that's all for now. We've built a custom API in Next.15, fetched data from it and displayed it on frontend, and we styled using table census. We can expand its feature further by integrating it with a database if you want, or adding user authentication. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Until next video, have a good time.